This is Leave Your Mark. I'm Vince Cortese, and today's guest is Chidester, founder and CEO of Elite CEOs. He has generated over 8 figures in the online coaching world. After discovering powerful, repeatable strategies, Tanner's success went on to disrupt the coaching industry forever. He began business coaching others with these same strategies, paving the way for simplicity in traditional complex arena. Tanner's business has organically evolved into the coaching empire we know today is Elite CEOs. Tanner, thank you for being my guest here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me.
Hi there, and welcome. Now it's time for America's favorite podcast, Leave Your Mark, with your host, Vince Cortese.
If it's fly, loose fitted, it's Cortese. If freezing, chubbers in it, it's Cortese.
Leave Your Mark is about inspiring the world, one guest at a time.
Pass the word from Brooklyn to Pittsburgh, from urban to suburb, it's Cortese, you heard?
And here is our host, Vince Cortese.
Well, the exciting part for me is that you just turned 30 years old and you established yourself as a force on the internet as a coach. And this is all just through sweat and just learning how to do your trade like nobody's business. And it's a credit to you and what you're doing. So what I want to do is talk about that success, but in a minute, let's just go and find out who you are and where you're from. So you're born in Sandy, Utah, and raised in Houston, Texas.
Correct. Yeah.
Mom, Kim, mother of 7 kids. Dad, Sean, insurance man and a teacher. You got siblings. You have 4 younger sisters and 2 brothers. You got Benson, Gentry, Alicia, Corinne, and Kendra, and Tanner. Okay. This is quite an environment for a start. 7 kids in the house. That's a lot of people. So you said you're raised in Middle America in Houston, Texas. So what began to take root in your teenage years?
Yeah. Well, just like I was mentioning earlier, we grew up in pretty, conservative household. Wasn't a ton to go around. My dad was always a really hard worker, and he kind of paved the way for that. He was always of the mindset, hey, we don't owe you anything. You kind of need to pave your own way. So as a young kid, I got bullied on quite a bit just because my older sisters were playing like dress up and tea parties with me. And I didn't really have an older brother to kind of, like grab me by the shoulder and maybe play sports with me. So started working out around the age of 12-ish. And that was so I could beat kids up. I remember telling my parents how I wanted to beat them up so they stopped making fun of me. And I started putting on a lot of muscle. I was also going through puberty. And so about, 2-3 months later, I started getting a lot of respect. And that was the first time I really felt like people saw me. And I really started to excel at sports after. And so I was like, hey, this really feels good. I'm going to take this really seriously. So I did that for about the next, 10 years or so. That was really my life. And I always had dreams to play in the NFL. And I did that until I got multiple injuries. And I also probably wasn't good enough, just being quite honest. And that's when I met my mentor, and he convinced me to drop out of school. And he told me I could do, great things in business, and struggled for a few years, didn't make any money. And then, the rest is kind of history after that.
So now you're a committed athlete with the workout and the football. So you're at Friendswood High School, the Mustangs, and you're participating in football and basketball and weightlifting. So after graduation, you said you went to BYU, Brigham Young. And so when you go up there, you're obviously a pretty good size since you've been lifting weights for a while. What position were you playing, and what academics were you planning on taking up?
Yeah, so I was actually playing linebacker. That's what I played all through high school. I loved it. And then I was also studying petroleum engineering. So the reason I did that is I just wanted to make I told myself, I was like, I want the degree that makes the most money in 4 years. And that's pretty much what it is. So that, I guess that I already had that kind of money mindset when I went into business.
So this is good. So then you meet David Fry, you decide you're not going to stay at BYU. You're thinking about transferring, and David Fry comes in. What kind of influence does he play on you at this point in your life?
Yeah, he was like a second father to me. He really just was looking out kind of for my well-being. He's good friends with my dad, and he was trying to help me on a personal level. And so he was like, hey, look, like if you do these things for me, I'll kind of show you how to build a business. And I expressed to him, hey, like, I want to make a lot of money. I just don't know what to do. Like, I really hate school. And he basically told me, he said, hey, man, there's a lot of ways to make money outside of school, a lot of better ways. And so he convinced me to drop out when everyone else thought I was an idiot, including myself. I mean, I wasn't even sure if I should drop out. And it changed everything for me. Completely changed my life. So he's like a second father to me. I still talk to him to this day, and good friend,
That's huge. That's very pivotal looking back at where you currently stand. So what stood out most about him, just besides saying that there's many different ways to make money, that really made you trust that what he was going to advise you from there forward was going to be good for you?
Yeah. So I think it's first, he was very good friends with my dad, and they go to the same church, and my family went to the same church. And so I think there was just like a lot of trust there. He also was pretty well known in the industry. He's, connected to Russell Brunson a little bit because his wife is one of Russell's cousins. And so he was in the ClickFunnels world, and a lot of people seemed to know who he was. So I had confidence, and he didn't really have any incentive to lie. If it didn't work out, obviously, like, my parents would be, probably upset. And so I kind of felt like there was, hey, he's offering me these things. He's saying these things. He's good friends with my dad. He's connected to ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson. I didn't really see a huge risk.
Mm-hmm.
And he was living the life I wanted to at the time. He was like, yeah, dude, I work from home. I kind of work when I want. Like, I make a lot of money. And I was like, cool. Like, show me how to do
more.
Yeah. And I always had worked really hard. And I think most people, they say that, but they don't. And I told him, I said, hey, man, if you show me what to do, I promise I'll do anything you tell me. Like, I'll lick the floor if you tell me it'll work. And he didn't believe me at the time, but, obviously I did do that, and it worked out. And so, to this day, I'm really grateful for him, because without him, I wouldn't be where I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, you're often and running in the real world. What did you decide to do first? Was the internet and what was going on in that arena, the e-commerce set, or did you work in the brick and mortar world for a pinch?
Yeah, no. So I actually started doing online fitness coaching. That's where I started. And that was the question you're asking, right? Like, what?
Yeah. So were you like using the YouTube thing and showing workouts and that kind of thing, or how were you doing it online?
Yeah. So he actually took me through, and I built an entire program. It was called the Rapid Muscle System, and it's $47. And I started trying to sell it, and I was selling it, but when you're selling something that cheap, you have to sell so much volume. And I wasn't doing YouTube. I wasn't really big on social media per se. I didn't have money to run ads. And so I thought I just put a link out and people would buy it, which was naive. But I learned a ton. It was almost like a PhD in business by the time I was done. And then when I started actually making money, it was a high ticket program. So they just said, hey, instead of selling, for $47, charge $1,500 or $2,000. And as soon as I did that, I made like $10,000 in a week. And then it just changed my entire life. Because it's just easier. It's like less clients, they pay more, it's less work, it's just easier to scale.
Now, did your Rapid Muscle System, did it tie in, or it was just a new product that was high ticket?
Yeah, it did. But the difference with that program is it was low ticket. So I didn't really talk to people. I didn't really do anything. It was just buy this and go through it. With the high price stuff, you have to give more attention, right? More fulfillment. So the biggest difference was just that I was now communicating with the clients and talking to them, versus with the low price stuff, they would buy it and that was about it. I want to talk to anyone.
You wouldn't see them or anything.
Connect with us on LinkedIn. Be our friend on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
Whether jumping out the MP or jumping on the app.
You are listening to Vince Cortese. We just want you to leave your mark.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're involved here and you're talking to your clients face to face. So relationships have driven. What motivates you moving forward? You basically have a more intimate business for sure.
Yeah, like just in terms of like continuing to make money and grow it.
Well, I like your relationship driven. So, and
Sure.
You're very conscious of delivering what you say you're going to deliver. So that level of your integrity shines through. And so you're in a position here now. You see what works, and this guy set you off in the right direction. You're high ticket. So what began to motivate you? Went back to the money driven part, or Was it a combination of both, seeing these people succeed and what it was you were
Yeah.
sharing?
I think there's always upside to seeing people do well. And obviously, I don't want to take people's money and they hate me and they dislike me and they tell people I'm terrible. I mean, obviously, but I think the reality is at the time I was very money driven. I was very much sick of being broke and poor, for lack of a better word. I was tired of not being able to pay for things and always money crunching. And I was so afraid I was going to go back to that I was running as fast as I could away from it. And so I was working 16, 18 hours a day, every day.
So you're just all in.
I didn't care. Yeah. Like I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about family. Not like at the time. Don't get, I love my family, but like, I was like, I'm not going to see my friends. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to talk to girls. And that was my life for years. And then even when I started, like, let's say going out a little bit, it was like very modestly, like a dinner here, a 2-hour dinner there. Maybe I would like text someone, but that was it. It was very modest, and I'm glad I did it because it, changed my life. It got everything off the ground. It was well worth it.
Now, how long does that go on before you turn into elite CEOs?
Yeah, so that's the crazy part. So the first 2 years, I made $2,000 in 2 years. I mean, it's terrible. And I was so unmotivated because I would go work, for 6 to 8 hours a day at a job. And then I come home and work for another 5 to 6 hours or longer. And I'm still training and working out on top of that. And I wasn't making any money. And it was very discouraging because I had been successful pretty much, it felt like, at everything I'd ever done, sports, dating, school. And when I was just about to quit, I called my mentor about 6 times. And I was like, every time, it was over 2 years, I'd call him about 6 times. So every like 3, 4, 5 months, I'd call him. I was like, man, I'm going to quit. I'm going to go back to school. This isn't working. Like, I've tried to do everything you've asked me to do. It's not working. He's like, dude, just like, don't quit. It's like, you can do it. You're going to figure it out. Like, don't quit. And that's when I saw an ad on Facebook, and it was how to build an online fitness business. And I clicked on it, paid him everything I had. And they just taught me about high ticket coaching, which for people listening, it's just, 2 higher price programs, $2,000-$3,000. And I made 10 grand in a week. And then it just took off like a ship. And I made $1 million in less than a year. And then because of my success, a lot of trainers started seeing what I was doing. They're like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, how are you making so much money? And so I started helping trainers. And then that took off like a rocket ship. And then more people started asking for help. And that's how Elite CEOs was born. I never planned on being a business consultant. I hated them. In fact, part of the reason I became a business consultant is there were so many people asking me for help because they're like, dude, I've paid these consultants to help me and they suck. And like, I'm seeing you do so well. Like, can you help me? And I was like, nah, like, dude, I don't want to get into that. Like, that's not my thing. But so many people finally asked, I just saw the opportunity, and that's how it happened. And, I teach everyone the things I did. And I try to help people because it's frustrating. I was super frustrated because I felt like I was getting all these mentors and coaches and most of them weren't good. And, it's in hindsight, like, I have a better appreciation because, it's easy to point and judge at someone when you're not there. And then you get there and you're like, like that's what they were doing and this, but that's how it was born. Long story short. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to step back. So
sure.
When you were saying, whose course was it that you did for the high ticket that it worked right away?
Yeah. So that was actually Sterling Griffin. He's not in the industry anymore.
Okay.
But he was probably one of the first people who did it. And it was like, his program was called like Wealthy Coach Academy or something. And I didn't go through any of the course, ironically. Like, I didn't really go through the course. What happened is I came in and then I started, like, I was watching a couple of videos. I was like, okay, like, this is taking too long. Like, I don't want to watch this because some of it was mindset stuff, which isn't bad, but I'm just a very like straight shoot guy.
Right.
So I just said, what do I do? He's like, look, message people, get them on a call, close. I was like, all right. And I started messaging like crazy, and I started getting all these people and closing. And I remember I was super excited. So a lot of people thought I was annoying, but I just have been broke and trying for so long that I was like, oh my gosh, I made a sale. Oh my gosh, I made another sale. Oh my gosh, I made another sale. And it was like my bank account was going up and
You
up and
were
up and
hitting
up.
the momentum switch.
Yeah, and I felt like a billionaire at the time. Like I just thought I was the hottest shit on the block.
But you also discovered it's like what's crazy is the most important thing on the internet is defining your niche, who you're
Right.
going to serve.
Sure.
But the next most important thing after that is taking action and executing what it is you want to do. And what's funny is a lot of the technology clouds people that at the end of the day, it's a human being on the other side of the technology that you're talking to. So that part never changed. But it's really exciting when you see somebody like yourself that's full of fire and you just take initiative. And this is the type of things that happen. So now, I mean, your numbers are staggering as far as the click funnels, and you've got 6-digit funnels. You're going on 7-digit funnels now. These 2 awards you got like probably in the dozens by the time we're doing this because you're adding them up. So you got to the next level now. You're perceived as one of the top experts in your field. So you mentioned the next level. So what do you see moving forward as far as how you want to develop elite CEOs and beyond?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. So the first thing is I'm gonna be transitioning out as the face. I'll still advise, I'll still know what's going on, but I think that's an important step. I think it's an important thing for an entrepreneur to learn how to build a company and be able to step out and still have it thrive. So that's number one. Number two is I definitely want to add in a Spanish division. I think there's such a huge market for Spanish speakers, especially I'm in Miami. I see it all the time. And so I think that'll double or triple our revenue alone just because there's such a massive market. And then we've also added kind of companies inside the company. So for lack of a better example, this probably isn't a great example, but Amazon kind of has done that where they kind of had this, Amazon's up here and then they have companies and teams.
Subdivisions.
Yeah. And so we have a division now called Elite Closers, which is a sales placement and training company. We have Elite Ads, which is our ad agency. We have what's called Elite 360, which is our tech division. And then I have a couple portfolios. So that's been cool because they're separate teams, but it's all under the same umbrella and we all kind of work together synergistically. But everyone's separate, right? You want to make sure the teams are separate. You don't want people double dipping.
Right.
And so it's really helped us scale. And I'm really in a position now where it used to be I would come up with all the ideas. I would have to do kind of like everything. And now I have really great people on my team. And they're proactive and they're problem oriented. And that's really when you can start doing big numbers and really cool things because it's not you anymore, it's the team. And it took me a long time to get here, obviously. It took me, 5 years to really build a team this good, but it's totally worth it. And I get why most people don't get here because it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Well,
Obviously.
the thing that's not spoken often is that you actually have to carry more than a single skill set or 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I haven't played athletics in my youth. I can't help but ask. You reference it as team. I'm assuming going to BYU, you were the high school team captain. So that leadership role, how much of your athletics and the fundamental approach of preparation for the sport rolls over into what you're currently doing?
I think a lot. I actually have said to my dad and my mentor, I said, you know what? I wish I didn't play sports because I would have started my business at 18 and I would have had 7 more years of a head start, right? And they always say to me, they say, you know what? Like you probably wouldn't be the way you are because sports taught me a ton of things about discipline, adversity, perseverance. A lot of people I see in business, it's interesting, but it's almost like they think it's going to be easy or they think like it's going to go perfect. And so for sports, especially as you get in higher levels of competition, it's very competitive and coaches do not care. They do not care how you feel at all. It's for them, they have to win. And so they're going to put the best players in and the best players play. And if you get hurt, it's kind of next man up. And so I think that really helped me in business because I just got to the point where I told myself, I said, I will do whatever it takes or I'll be homeless. And some people say that, they'll say that and it sounds nice, but I genuinely got to a point where I would have done anything within, legality, the lines of legal, but I was willing to do anything. And it's just, you get to a point in your life where you've kind of had enough And for me, that point was around that, I was turning 25 mark. And as soon as that happened, I started making tons and tons of money. And I think I could have made money sooner, but I told myself I was ready to, be successful and do well. But I was like, I wasn't really there. Like people are like, oh, you're young, you'll figure it out. But then at 25, something kind of switched and I just felt old. For lack of a better word, I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I'm 25. If I don't start getting my shit together, I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to find a girl. I'm not going to have friends. Like it just felt like
that inner voice was getting loud.
Yeah. And then things just kind of started taking off from there.
If you are listening from Australia, Florida, or just from around the corner,
from East Coast to West Coast outlets, if you're not into the dirty South straight, make a left and body.
Contact us. Leave your mark with your host, Vince Cortese.
Well, I mean, and also too, it's kind of like the teacher appears when the student is ready. And,
right.
It sounds like that threshold of you just saying you just had enough arrived. So now kind of leaning back into that, your elite CEOs. At this next level, you see the vision of what's going. What are you doing personally as far as sharpening your own skills and keeping up with how this internet continues to change rapidly?
Yeah. So a lot of my time now, instead of like being quote unquote inside the business, is definitely like talking to higher level people, more affluent people. Recently, I've had probably 20 conversations with individuals that have sold for as high as $2.5 billion, have valuations at $4 billion. I've talked, 100 million, 250 million, crazy levels. And so part of that has been like, obviously continuing to learn, and the higher level people you surround yourself with, it rubs off on you.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing what other ways I can push the business, because there's been times where I don't know if limiting belief is the right word, but I just say, oh, this is how big the business can get. And it's super big and we're one of the top businesses and that's how it is. And then someone will come in and say, oh, well, like we're doing cold outbound and we're doing these numbers. Or someone will say, oh, we pivoted this way and this is what we do now. And I'm like, wow. Like, and it's kind of mind blowing because it's like the 4-minute mile, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like this is the fastest a human can run. And then someone beats it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, okay, so maybe that isn't how it is. So I think that's where a lot of my time is spent now, is learning new strategies, thinking of different ways to develop the company. And then also just when I see bigger things happening, it's good for me and my team, because then it helps me not limit the growth of my company where I'm like, oh, this is, where we are and this is like how big we can get, versus like my mind continues to expand when I meet people who are just doing astronomical numbers or way farther ahead than me. And so I spend a lot of time trying to think of ways to help move the company forward, but it's more of the creative thinking and then making sure my team executes versus me actually doing the execution, if that makes sense.
Yes. Now you've made quite a bit of strides then in this 5 years, and then you're talking to these upper level people. Now you understand how to make money. So making money, part of it is almost like a statistics. I had, 15 tackles in a game, a fumble recovery, and 2 sacks. So they turn out to be just numbers. Are you finding yourself now leaning in towards these people who have more experience or higher levels of business? Are they holding different value than just numbers to you as far as maybe finance or how big you can get? Is there other things that you're pulling from them that you see it making you a bigger thinker?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the sense of, once you want the most wealthy people, typically, I'm going to say typically because there's always anomalies, but once you can't really spend more max, even if you try, like $1 to $2 million a year. Like if you went out to dinner every single night and you bought all designer clothes and shoes and you had the nicest cars, spending $2 million a year is hard. It really is. And so what I've seen is like, it gets to the point where it's not about the money anymore. It's about the growth. And so for me, I think the difference in what I see is if I wanted to, let's say, create $1 billion company, which like I would like to, it's like, what type of person do you have to become to do that? And it's like, you have to become a better leader. You have to have better ideas. You have to be more creative. You have to be able to manage teams. Like you have to think bigger, right? And so that's what I mostly enjoy. And that's what I take away from a lot of these people is it's the love of the game. It's the love of business that drives them, because there's probably a few people who are super money hungry, but it really just gets to a point. It just does not matter. It really doesn't.
Your happiness
And,
comes from somewhere else.
yeah, and like when I see Elon Musk, like whether you like him or not, I just can't imagine the guy's motivated by money. He just can't be, because like there's no reason to keep pushing. He's achieved everything, like everything, and he still is so driven. And so that's kind of where I pull my drive from now. And what makes me happy is I really love growth. I'm a very type A, like growth driven person. And so for me, it's like people are like, why do you got to keep pushing? Like, why do you keep talking to these people? Or like, why are these individuals who are, worth 9 figures, 10 figures pushing? And I think that's the real reason.
And it's your comfort zone too. That's your Tanner
Yeah.
being Tanner in that energy level. So that's to be admired. At this point, being in business for yourself, you get big titles: entrepreneur, a millionaire, you're expert in your field. What are your biggest surprises at this point from what you've decided to do?
Yeah, biggest surprises. I think sometimes being a growth driven person, it's kind of you're never satisfied type feeling. And so sometimes no matter how much we make or how good we're doing, I'm like, I want more, I want more, I want more, which I think is part of why I've been successful. But going back to your question, I just think sometimes I'm a little bit amazed at like how big the company has become, because I started all by myself. I was a one-man show, and now we have 90 to 100 people.
That's what I wanted to ask you. You have 100 people working for
Yeah,
you,
like
by yourself.
Yeah, about 90
in a 60-month window. I mean, that's the length of time we finance cars for.
Yeah,
So,
and
that's exciting.
And then I just having other divisions, and we have people who are the CEOs now. We have operators, and it's fun when you can build something that ultimately like everyone's going the same direction, and you're also able to help other people. So like one of the things I really enjoy is both of my brothers work for me, and both of them work really hard, and both of them make way more money working with me than they ever would have going to college or like doing something else. And so they earn it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I never like say, oh, I gifted you. They earned it. But I think it's the fact that I've been able to make an opportunity to do things like that. And that's cool as well, because you can
feel really good.
Yeah, you can create something that actually helps other people's lives versus it's just yours. And in the beginning, I was very selfish. I probably still am to a degree, and I'm always trying to improve, but it definitely becomes more about other people, because once you have kind of enough money, you're able to kind of do that, and you don't have to make every last cent a profit and keep every last dollar. Like you can give people more, and you can give them more upside, and it's a good feeling because
that feels
they appreciate it a lot.
All right, so you have the ability to do this. If you were to purchase a billboard, what would you put on it?
Oh man, that is a great question. I'm assuming for business, right? Like some type of business.
I think you could make this whatever you'd like. You could do it personal or professional, however you want to do it.
That's a very interesting question. I haven't thought of that, but probably just because you put me on the spot. The biggest thing I'm trying to do now is grow my personal brand. So if I could put something on a billboard that would stand there, I'd probably just like put something to my YouTube or like put something to one of my socials. Because one of the things I've seen and I've noticed more is I really did think personal branding or like social media influencing was really stupid. I still do sometimes, but you saw, like you've seen like Conor McGregor and Kylie Jenner and Dwayne Johnson and Mr. Beast and the Paul brothers, and you're seeing how basically they can go and sell anything and it blows up. And that has come strictly from building a massive loyal following. And so I think in the next 10 years, you're going to see people who don't take it more seriously are going to get left behind. And all these entrepreneurs and business owners who really start trying to build a brand are going to have a huge edge in any business they build because, they just buy whatever you put out. Mr. Beast is a great example, and he's killing it. And the guy's basically a billionaire and he's 24. His company's been valued over $1 billion. And so that's probably what I put, just because that's where my mind is right now.
If you have a story to share, tell us. How are you going to leave your mark? Contact us. Leave your mark with our host, Vince Cortese. Be our guest.
All right. Well, we've arrived at that point in the interview. So how would you like to leave your mark?
Yeah, my mark is hopefully, I'll be remembered as someone who, tried to help others and did his best. And I think ultimately when I've thought about when I'm 85, if I was about to die, hopefully I get to like 80, 85. That's my goal. If I live long, but I hope I can look back and just say that I did the best I could do, because I think a lot of people live kind of their life in fear of and what ifs, and they never take chances. And I think if you do your very best, no matter whether you end up here, you end up there, that's the best feeling in the world. So hopefully I kind of leave the impact that I helped a lot of people, and that people remember me as the guy who lived his life to the fullest. Because, whether, God gave you one talent or 5 or 10, as long as you maximize that, I think that's the best feeling in the world. And so far in my life, I feel like I've really done that. And that's why I continue to push, because I always worry, like, am I doing enough? And that's what I hope I kind of leave my mark on.
I think you're doing a damn good job. You're off to one hell of a start, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Tanner, this has been a joy listening to you. You're a true student of what it is you do. And I'm sure that the people that work with you feel that confidence coming through. So I'm sure that you have quite a loyal following as well. And I want to thank you for coming by today. I know you're a busy man. So we're gonna give you here the opportunity. What were your URLs and social media connects you like for us to share with the audience?
Sure. Yeah, so I think the best one would be YouTube. I'm really trying to up my YouTube game, and so you just type in Tanner Chidester and they'll pop right up. There's not a lot of people with my last name. It's kind of funky, and that'd be the best place. That'd be the best place to connect.
And then what, the Elite CEO's website also?
Yeah, and that's still my main company, eliteCEOs.com. So, if anyone listens to this and, they need help building their online business or their personal trainer and that resonate, that's always a good place to go.
And I believe you're an author too, are you not?
Yeah, I wrote one book. It's called Infinite Income, and it just kind of goes through my journey in more detail and what I did to get here. And I wrote it with the intention just to kind of give people a no BS, like straight path on what I did. Because a lot of books I've read, I'm like, man, just give me the juice. Like, I don't need all the
Just give me
so
the juice.
kind of short and sweet and to the point, and that was the intention of it.
Excellent. Okay, that was fantastic. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Leave Your Mark today. Tune into our next episode of Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese. Be blessed.
You just left your mark. Thanks for listening. Listen to more episodes on demand. Just click Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese.